Hi, my name is Addison Yelvington, and I did my presentation on 10 Things I Hate About You. This movie took place at Stadium High School, which is located in Tacoma, Washington State, and they also filmed at Bianca and Kat's house, which are some of the main characters of the movie, and they also filmed a lot at the football field of the high school. The first thing that I just wanted to give you a little background on some of the main characters that were in the movie. So when I'm giving throughout my presentation, when I'm talking about them, you have a little insight about them. Kat Stratford is an unsociable, proud girl who does not care what anyone thinks of her. She is completely against dating and gets annoyed when she hears the words teenage social life. Bianca Stratford is Kat's younger sister, who is the princess of the school, and she's a beautiful, popular girl who wears designer clothing and cares a lot about what people think of her. Walter Stratford is Kat and Bianca's father. He was a really funny personality and is the typical dad who does not want his little girls to grow up. Patrick Verona is the teenage rebel who hangs out at the pool hall smoking cigarettes and drinking. He is from Australia and speaks with a little bit of an accent. Cameron James is the new kid at the school who falls in love with Bianca. He is a very sweet, delicate kid whose dad is in the army, so he moves schools a lot. And Joey Donner is a model and the school's most popular kid. He is seen as stuck up, self-absorbed, and only cares about himself and the way he looks. The first thing that I did was listening techniques. Uh, I used one of the first scenes in the movie with the guidance counselor when Cameron comes to get his new school schedule. The topic that was being addressed was a new student, and the guidance counselor, which was Cameron, comes to get his class schedule, but she's not paying much attention to him and he tries to get rid of him fast. Then another student gets sent to her, which Patrick gets sent to her for getting in trouble, and she sends him away with no discipline, basically telling him just to quit getting in trouble. And then the level of listening that was being used is she was not completely listening to what the students had to say and was kind of talking to them in an inappropriate way. And she was using nonverbal communication. The internal and exterior barriers to an effective listening that were observed was a lack of listening as the students were talking to her. She was more focused on what was going on with the computer, and she also turned them away without helping them. The hypothesis that I came was that she could have talked to the students in a more inappropriate way and actually talked to them like she cared about them, since she is a guidance counselor, because guidance counselors, a big part of them is communication and how they talk to other people. If I were to counsel her, I would tell her that she needs to talk in a more appropriate way to the students and let them finish talking before she sends them away, and also to answer their questions they have and give them her full attention. The next one I did was nonverbal communication. This is one of the big concepts that was used throughout the movie, and I used Kat Stratford shows this a lot. She uses nonverbal communication with her gestures, her body language, eye contact, facial expressions, her tone of voice. I used a really good scene of this. I thought it was a good scene. Kat and Patrick are in the car, and she leans in for a kiss, and Patrick does not. It makes Kat very upset because she really likes Patrick, and she kind of like slams back in her seat and gets out, slams the door, and storms off without telling Patrick why she's mad. Nothing. So she's using a lot of nonverbal communication, which really helped me to see what nonverbal communication was, because I'm a very verbal person. I don't use a lot of nonverbal communication, so this kind of helped me understand it more. Then the next day at school, Patrick is sitting in the bleachers while she's at soccer practice, and he almost gets hit with the soccer ball. But come to find out, Kat purposely aimed it towards him, and she was getting all angry, and then she crosses her arms and glares at him. So it's showing she's angry without actually telling Patrick why she's mad, which she's mad because she leaned in for a kiss and he didn't lean in, but he doesn't know that because she never physically actually told him that's why she was mad. So that gave me a better perspective on nonverbal communication. I also did a verbal communication, which I think Cameron does very well in this. Verbal communication is basically when you use words to express yourself, and he does this very well. Like me, I use a lot of words to express myself. Cameron has a huge crush on Bianca, and he tries to show it to her in this scene where he pretends to know French so he can tutor her. He asks Bianca, they're talking, she comes sit down, and he asks Bianca if she wants to go to a French restaurant Saturday night so they can practice saying French words and eating French food. But she just keeps going on and on, talking about Joey and how she needs to get her sister Kat a date. And after Cameron asked her out, she says, "Are you asking me out? That's so cute. What's your name again?" Even though she did not have any interest in him and she couldn't even remember his name, I mean, he still uses verbal communication to talk to him and express himself, and he uses that a lot to show how he feels towards her. And she goes on talking about her sister and how she needs a boyfriend so she can go on a date with Joey and how much she likes him. And then Cameron asks her if she would like to go sailing, but then again, she ignores him and keeps talking about Kat and Joey. And then Cameron agrees to help her, and he really uses verbal communication when Bianca goes, "You would do that for me?" And Cameron goes in a really loud, cute voice, "Oh, yes." And like the whole library heard him, and he put like a lot of emotion into it to like show that he's expressing himself towards Bianca. Then I compared verbal versus nonverbal communication. I used Patrick and Cameron for this scene. A lot of nonverbal and verbal communication was used in this scene. Cameron goes up to Patrick and asks him if he's interested in taking Kat on a date so he can go out with Bianca. Cameron walks up and starts talking to him, but Patrick ignores him and keeps on doing what he was doing before Cameron walked up. Cameron doesn't let him bother him because he's a very verbal person and he's going to get his point across whether someone's giving him his full attention or not, kind of like me. So basically, Patrick keeps just shrugging his shoulders and nodding his head, which Patrick is normally a verbal person, but he's being nonverbal at this point. But he's actually listening to what Cameron is saying. He's just not being verbal with his answers. He just nods his head, like I said before, and shrugs his shoulders, which is using his body language. But eventually he does answer Cameron and agrees to take Kat out on a date, and they go on about their business. But I thought it was a good scene to compare and contrast how nonverbal and verbal communication can still work and they can still form a conversation, because they still had a conversation without Patrick having to physically answer Cameron, and they still came out with an answer. So I thought that was a really good scene to show how nonverbal and verbal communication can work together. The next one that I did was interpersonal communication. I used Kat and Patrick's relationship for this because they had a lot of unhealthy interpersonal communication at the beginning of the movie, because they had trust issues with each other, because Patrick was paid to take her out on a date and Kat didn't trust him, and so forth. So when he first started dating Kat, his motives were wrong, but as it went on, his intentions to keep dating her were completely pure. And one of Patrick's lines were, "It's not every day you find a girl who is willing to flash someone to get you out of detention." And that's what kind of started the whole conversation about Patrick admitting that he was paid to take her out on a date. And then that's when they finally click with their communication, and the interpersonal communication actually starts to come out with them. Then he admits that Joey paid him to take her out and says, "Yeah, but I screwed up. I fell for her." And the communication style between them is not the most efficient, but after this scene, it becomes more efficient with each other. And I said that they need to work on telling each other how they really feel and open up to one another. And I think they really did this in this scene. And it showed a lot of interpersonal communication. They really connected, and it gave me a better perspective on what interpersonal communication was. And they need to talk to each other. They talk to each other in a calm manner instead of getting mad and storming off like Kat usually does. The next one that I did was emotion. This movie had a lot of emotions, especially in the last scene when Kat was reading her poem essay. While she was reading it, she begins to cry because she realizes how much she really does love Patrick, but has had a hard time accepting it. During this scene, Kat expresses a lot of emotion that she usually does not do. Normally, she just uses her body language and walks off. When Patrick saw her crying, he was surprised as well, and he immediately knew why she was crying. Emotion is a big part of our daily lives, and we use it every day with conversation, whether we realize we're using it or not. Emotion can be how you talk to one another, your tone of voice. It could be your body language. You could be talking to someone with your arms crossed, and that could be a sign of emotion that you're mad or upset. But you could just have your arms crossed, but having your arms crossed shows that person that you are upset even though you're not. So you show emotion without realize you're showing that emotion. Um, like I said, we use emotion even if we don't know we're using it. It's part of our everyday lives, and emotion is a big part of how we communicate to one another. And this movie showed a lot of it, and it gave me a lot of good examples on what emotion really is. Um, Basically, just a quick review. This semester we learned a lot about different communication styles, and this movie helped me so much to see how the different styles work and how they work together. um, it showed me how different people communicate and how everyone can use their own way of communication and still get an outcome with one another. Some people are verbal, nonverbal, emotional, interpersonal when it comes to communication, and there is nothing wrong with how someone communicates. It's just how they feel comfortable communicating. This movie showed every aspect of communication because each character had their own way and each one was different. It really helped me a lot to broaden my perspective on communication. And even though I didn't have I didn't have a slide for it, but conflict was a big thing in this movie also. um and conflict was our last module that we had, and this movie helped me a lot with the conflict, and also, and it showed me a lot of good examples for almost every single communication style that we talked about over this semester. And this project helped me so much, and I've learned very many different ways to be able to communicate with each other. And being going into the medical field, I feel like this is going to help me a lot. So this is my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you, and bye. Thank you.